Hey guys, Dr. Scott Nall here from thevillageosteopath.com. And so I decided to come up here to the local Barnes & Noble and go over some of my favorite books because I do read a lot and wanted to share with you a few of my favorite picks and why they might be that way. This first one actually I just brought with me because I didn't know if they would have it here or not, but this is my favorite children's book at the current time. I have four children, so do a lot of children's books. And so the first one is going to be the Myers Bible Storybook, or as I like to call it, Bible History Book. And the reason I like this one as opposed to a lot of other quote-unquote children's Bibles or children's Bible storybooks is this one does deal with a lot of topics that most children's books will just kind of gloss over and not even include. I'm trying to get this light. There we go. It's a lot better. It's all glaring at me. But it also uses language that will stretch your child a little bit, as opposed to, you know, just the typical, hey, look, Jesus loves you, with a little cartoon character, Jesus hugging kids, which is fine, you know. But once you get to be about children get to be about 4 or 5, this is definitely going to be much better for them as far as I'm concerned. Until they learn how to read on their own, they can start actually reading the real thing. And even then, I think this is a good supplement because it does have a few pictures in there. It's not completely, you know, it might have one picture per every 3 or 4 pages, so it's not completely, it's not like a picture book, but it does tell really good stories in there. It's chronological and has a good flow to it. So this is number 1. All right, so I'm gonna take a quick drink of my tea and we'll go on a little walk. Okay, so first thing, I think we'll head over here to my favorite business book. You know, I am a small business owner, so I do have some favorites. And that will be, I guess all the text is going to be backwards on here. It's going to be a little weird. So I'm going this way. It's going to be Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. This book can be a little off-putting to some people. You know, actually, I've got 2 here. I'm going to see if I can find the other one. Probably not right off the bat, but it would be this one and Dave Ramsey's EntreLeadership. Those would be companion books if you're in business or wanting to start a business. And hello.
Finding everything all right?
I am finding everything fine. Yes. Great customer service here. And what it basically looks at is kind of old school versus new school. And in the medical field right now, both of those are very important, because if you think about it, most of my patient population are going to be, at the youngest, probably Gen Xers and older. And so a lot of the stuff that Tim talks about here doesn't apply very well to that age population. I actually did a proof of concept medical practice using just his stuff here. Failed miserably. But I was able to use a lot of his stuff about automation. And because of that, I was able to automate a lot of things in the office, which allows me to spend more time with patients, which is what I want to do. So that was very important. So if you're looking to start a business, especially in terms of products versus services, this would be a great one. And then EntreLeadership is just a great book by Dave Ramsey when it comes to especially his hiring and firing chapter. Very important. I would read that over and about budgeting. So great selections there. Okay, so we'll move on down. Let's see. Okay, so we'll go down to my favorite teen fiction. What? Yeah, absolutely, teen fiction. You know, this is what this is going to be. I'm going to get some Harry Potter up in here. So why would Dr. Nall be reading teen fiction? Well, back when I was an intern, basically what I did is I went to sleep every single night reading Harrison's Internal Medicine, because I was scared to death that I would kill somebody. Okay, and so I had to meet two criteria before I decided I was going to do anything fun. One, I was going to pass to my last step of board so I can get a medical license, and number two, I was going to get to the point where I felt like it was safe for me to not have to fall asleep hugging Harrison's every night. And so as my reward, I wanted to read something very easy and very fun, and so I picked this right here. I had watched one of the movies when I was in medical school and thought it was very enjoyable, and so every call night I'd pull up a little Harry Potter and start reading it, and I read through the whole series, and well, this is all the series that was out at the time, in my first month of night call I was doing. And my favorite of the series, I pretty much like them all except for the second book, Chamber of Secrets, not my favorite, but I like the first one. Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone if you're in Europe. And that is because it just introduces, I like beginnings, any kind of story about beginnings where they start developing characters, and you're starting to learn about all these new people, and that's what the first book goes over. So I really liked it. All right, so let's go on. Head over here. Oh, this wasn't even on my list, but I just saw it, so I'm going to go ahead and pull over here and talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Another business book, or really just professional development in general, and that is an oldie, Think and Grow Rich. Just saw it here. This is by Napoleon Hill. This is probably considered the first self-help book, or get rich quick, so to speak, book, and it was commissioned by Andrew Carnegie. He wanted to figure out what he was doing that made him so successful and awesome, and so he hired this guy to follow him around and see if he could figure out some of his traits that he had that made him be wealthy. And so that's kind of where this book came from. It's been edited and updated many times. I'm going to say if you're a man, probably read the original. If you're a woman, probably read the updated version, and probably the original too, just because it gives different views. So the original one, Napoleon Hill did not think that, at the time it was written, that women were going to be in the business world, I guess, and so it all assumes you're a man that's reading the book. It does have a chapter that a lot of the updated versions have taken out about something I think he calls it sexual power, which I highly recommend people read. It gets panned a lot and talked about how it's sexist, but I think it's just that people don't understand what it is, and basically the concept is this. Is that men cannot be successful without a successful woman, or an awesome woman kind of supporting them. And I'm sure my wife would agree with that. But the new one kind of leaves that chapter out, and it also updates it to more gender inclusive language. So think and grow rich right there. Okay, now we're going to go down here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. This might, yeah, we'll just pass on that one. Keep on going. that might cause some problems. Okay, so we're going to go down here and we'll talk about my favorite health and wellness or cookbook. Right here. Oh. Okay. It is Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon. So this one is it's pretty much a cookbook, but it also has a lot of history in there, and it's a cookbook based upon some of the writings by a dentist named Weston Price. And Weston Price was a dentist who wondered why people in non-developed areas had less cavities than people in more developed areas. And so he would go out every year with his wife on vacation. They would go to places where There would be like a little island off the coast to where people were still kind of fixing their food in traditional ways, and then on the mainland where people had more modernized. And he would go through and he would have all the people come together and he would count their teeth, and he would count how many caries, dental caries or cavities that they had, and then he would count in the developed areas, and then he would look at their foods and compare them. And so a lot of this is kind of where some low carb diets have come out of this thinking and things of that nature, but he came up with some kind of themes that went through all these different cultures. And this cookbook talks a lot about traditional ways of preparing foods, which we don't really think about anymore. And so it's just really neat. I think, one thing, it will cause you to probably eat less because it takes a lot longer to prepare food. Usually it helps bring out flavor naturally in food where you're not having to put a lot of processed items in there and sugar and things of that nature. And so, while I don't agree with everything, kind of the way that Sally Fallon has kind of pushed that, especially the amount of food that she talks about that you should be able to consume. But a lot of the preparation techniques are really good, and I do recommend those. Okay, I think we're just about done. So I'm going to go to my favorite book of all time now. And it is over here. Okay. The Hobbit. The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. And the reason this is my favorite book is because it is the first book I remember reading that I thought was very challenging, and I was really excited to read it. And I read this when I was in 5th grade, and I remember I went to pick it up, we got it with our stack of books, and I was like, whoa, how in the world am I ever going to read that? That is huge, because it was a paperback and it was like that thick, and I had never read anything that big before. And I remember it had a lot of words in there I didn't know, and I was always having to constantly get my dictionary out, if anyone even knows what those are anymore. But I was always, I had my dictionary sitting there next to me. I'd come up to a word and I'm like, oh, I'll have to go look that one up later, and I'd write it down or I'd look it up right there. And I just remember really getting into the story as a 5th grader and really enjoying it. And it made me want to go on and read the rest of the books, The Lord of the Rings, the trilogy that comes after that later. I didn't get all the way through The Lord of the Rings. I thought it was a little too advanced for me in 5th grade and even 6th grade at the time, but definitely got around to them later, and have read them and listened to the audiobooks and really enjoy it. So, just from a great story perspective, Hobbit's great and has good nostalgia from my perspective, as brings back really good memories of elementary school. So I hope that gave you a little peek into my life and kind of where I come from. You can kind of see, typically I tend to fall between 2 different types of books, fantasy fiction books, and then also kind of more life application type stuff, either business or cooking, or Bible type things. So that's kind of where I come down in my reading and the books I love. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Post your favorite book, the book that you love, in the comment section below, and we'll kind of go from there. Dr. Scott Nall from thevillageosteopath.com.